we're back to another episode of the Carlos Speaks podcast. Number one, I'm grateful for every like, every subscription, every share, every comment. I truly believe that this space or these kinds of spaces are necessary for conversation to help us zoom in, zoom out, for personal development, all the things. So I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to hold a space of this nature. So thank you for that. Let's jump right into it. One of my viral episodes talked about my parents and talked about my dad and a lot of the wisdom that he gave me as it pertains to being what we consider a baby daddy, right? And I was like, oh, your dad is so wise for that. You're so amazing for listening to your dad. And that was perfect. Let's be a buck. I hated my daddy and my mama. Yeah. Yeah. Let's lean into that today. And a little backstory. My parents were teenagers when I was born. And again, this isn't a violation of their privacy. I've talked about it on previous episodes. There's even an episode with my mom on the audio version of my podcast where she just really goes into her experiences as a teenage mom and finding her way. So just to disclaim that. But from my perspective, I hated them. And the reason why is because when I was born, I was raised by my grandparents off top, right? And as I grew, I started despising my parents because I felt like I deserved better. I felt like I deserved parents that I was raised in the house with. I felt like I deserved parents that would take me to and from my football games, my little league, pee-wee sports games, come to my events, all of those things. And I didn't have any of that. My parents actually grew apart, moved away, got married, and had families of their own. So I suffered a bit from a feeling of abandonment and things of that nature. I despised them for at least the first 15 years of my life. Now, the transitional point that occurred for me for my parents was that at some point, especially when I became a parent myself, I had to disassociate my idea of the perfect parent from the parents I really had. Because ultimately, Jennifer's existence isn't to only be my mama. Being my mama is a role that Jennifer also played in the grand scheme of her own life. And I had to get to a point where I realized that my mama did the best she could with what she had, with the capacity she had. And my daddy Al did too. And I think that we live in a generation where, especially being a millennial personally, we kick and scream when we don't get what we believe we're entitled to have. And we use that as an opportunity to traumatize somebody else. All right. So essentially, we are the source of the cyclical nature of trauma because we haven't dealt with the things that hurt us. So we hurt other people, right? And it took me a very long time to get into a position where, one, I could hold myself accountable for demonizing my parents when they did the best they could. And the other side of that is also, right, creating a bar so high as a result of how I felt about my parents for myself as a dad. Okay. We might as well have a real conversation. I held disdain and a lot of negativity in my heart for my parents, especially when I grew up and I got enrolled to college. I joined the Army. I did all of these phenomenal things, and a part of me did it out of anger. Like if I could just do the next best thing to show them that I never needed them anyway, and if I could, and these accomplishments will make room for the feelings that I want to feel for my parents, and I just took accomplishment and accomplishment and accomplishment one after the next, and I just tried to fill that void with success. So essentially, I'm as accomplished and successful as I am today because I was angry. It wasn't even anything that I innately wanted to do myself. Every opportunity I had, oh, that'll show my dad that he should have been there. That'll show my mom that she should have made me a priority, right? And even as a young father myself, there were things that I broke my back to do when I could have leaned on the support of my village. But I was too angry at my dad to say, okay, I need help carrying this. I don't know it all. And so I don't ever want to get to a point where people see the relationship that I have with my parents today and forsake what it took to get here from all sides. I had to sit down with him. I'm like, hey, bro, I got to be honest with you. I hate you. And it wasn't hard for me to say because I meant it. I meant it. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I wasn't trying to be crass. I wasn't trying to be any of those things. And I can't imagine what it felt like as a parent to hear that from your child that you gave everything you could have to, right? And again, if you go back and listen to the previous episode when I'm interviewing my mom, there are some things that came out in the conversation that I didn't even know about. So as a child, I didn't even have all the pieces to the puzzle, but I made the pieces fit out of anger and I cut out room for grace because I don't care what your side of the story is. All I care about is my experience. So I'm grateful that I have an amazing relationship with both my parents today, but I'm sure that there's somebody somewhere who needs to hear that because you have to disassociate the experience from your perspective as it pertains to your parent maybe trying the best they had. Do your parent deal with addiction? Is there trauma? Were they sexually abused? My mom was. So there's so many facets of opportunity to have a conversation and to find healing in conversation. Because just like violence, trauma only begets more trauma. Now we're keeping. If my parents and I had never made amends, my children would have never had a relationship with their grandparents because of a misunderstanding. Not even a misunderstanding. Watch this. It was because of my anger and my assumption that they just didn't want to be there. And that seeded hate in me. No, you can't tell me nothing, bro. Me and my dad almost got in a fist fight because he wanted me to cut the grass. I'm like, bro, you ain't my daddy. I can't imagine what that must have felt like. Because let me tell you something. My son was to tell me that. Send the police quick. Send the funeral director too. But I say that from an entirely different perspective as my father. And I'm grateful that I have parents who were willing to be honest and open about their experiences, their traumas, um, the burdens they carried. I felt terrible. I felt this big when I had a conversation with my mom and she told me the things that she had experienced and the things that she protected me from by stretching her arms out to protect me from it. The things that broke her back so I could stand up. Same with my dad. In hindsight, I wish I could go back and understand, but I could only have the capacity that I had. And I think that having the capacity now gives me the opportunity to live with grace. Watch this from anybody. Because you don't know what nobody's going through. Nobody. And I'm not saying that having a conversation automatically demands forgiveness and grace, but you don't know what it'll do for you. Because sometimes a person can validate that they did traumatize you, they did hurt you, they did abuse you, right? And that gives you solace to say, I'm not overreacting. I'm not acting out of a place of imaginary abuse. No, this happened. I'm not being gaslit. This really happened. And I truly believe that that begins with the conversation. Even that conversation, go talk to the lady. Call the lady. Get in some actual therapy. Life is too yielding, too fulfilling to walk around burdened by the things that happen to you, by the hands of somebody else. So it's my prayer that you find the space and the capacity to do what heals you. Thank you for your time.